Welcome to Where We Meet, a podcast by Sassetti. I'm Jessica Freiberg, and each episode we start with an accounting topic and then see where the conversation takes us. Because in our world, it never stays in one lane. Welcome to today's podcast. Today I'm joined by
Isabella Pludniak
and Tyler Kuda.
Thank you for joining me again. I wanted to share that last night I had the privilege of going out on Lake Michigan on a boat cruise.
Ooh.
And it was the perfect night for it. It was such beautiful weather. Thought it was going to be a little chilly, was worried a little about the rain, but it turned out to be perfect. And, I just don't do that enough. I feel like we don't do enough things in our own city as tourists sometimes to have those experiences. So what do you guys? Do you guys have any fun experiences coming up?
Not like next week or anything, but I did just buy tickets for Celine Dion in May in France, next May.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about. So it might be a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So it was actually really interesting because it was my first time buying tickets to an event abroad, and there were no fees, and all the tickets were at face value. It's actually, I think, illegal or somehow monitored in France where you can't resell the tickets for more than their face value, and you have to go through like that concert venue or processor or ticket reseller or whatever the case is. So it was just kind of a nice experience. It kind of reminded me of like the last Taylor Swift extravaganza last summer, where it was like the tickets here were so expensive that sometimes it was cheaper to like actually go abroad and have like a Euro trip and see her in France or
we
Warsaw.
knew people who went to Poland for it.
Really?
Like they took their whole family to Poland because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
Have you bought any concert tickets lately, Tyler? Pretty pricey.
Lately, no, and I think that's a good reason why. I saw some other places to go maybe in Kentucky for shows, but you had lodging, and I think then it's like I need a loan to pay for some of these experiences.
Have you been seeing any of the posts about the international visitors that we're having for the World Cup?
No.
No, not on like social media or any of your feeds. So I have. I don't know. I mean, I'm a soccer fan, so maybe that's why. But they do interviews to see like how much they paid to come to the United States to see the World Cup, and people paid like $60,000, $40,000. I was like, what in the world?
The prices are insane. And I think that, it goes back to the ticket prices. We thought about going. We're traveling to Toronto when the World Cup is playing there, but the ticket prices were just outrageous.
How much were they? Like thousands of dollars?
Yeah, thousands of dollars.
And in the first section, they hundreds of thousands, like $140,000. It's absurd because
you gotta
it's
love
once in a
something
lifetime.
so much. Just $100,000.
Yeah.
Is it once in a lifetime? The World Cup happens every 4 years.
For the U.S.
Well, they're saying compared to the
Yeah.
prices 4 years ago, right? That it's just, increased so much more.
I guess.
So.
I don't know why though.
There's a
I
battle
guess
like
it's what
artists,
people are willing to pay.
Yeah.
and I guess artists don't make money on their album sales, so that when they tour, that's how they collect. Comedians do the same thing.
Yeah.
And then they promote it with podcasts. That's their main objective is ticket sales.
Yeah.
But that brings up, is it predatory?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. But then they tack on all those fees. So it's like, okay, here's the ticket price. That's fun too. You like go and buy the ticket. It says $250 and you're like, okay, fine. And then you like go to check out and it's $350 and you're like, what the heck happened?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I actually just read recently that Illinois is changing some of the laws around credit card processing fees. Is that something you've seen?
I actually read the same article. I think that, obviously it's controversial because, it involves banking, right, and financial institutions. So I think there was some back and forth in the courts and they ended up delaying it. But it does bring about like the topic of, hey, are these fees exorbitant? Should the consumer be bearing the cost? Should the business be bearing the cost? I think they were trying, from what I'm recalling, is Illinois was trying to remove the fees from being assessed on tips and on tax. So the fees would only be able to be assessed on the actual payment for the service or the food. And so I think there was some controversy about it in the courts, and so they're appealing it. And I think so then they pushed back the start date till I think July 1st, 2027 to give some time for the courts to kind of look at it and see if it's feasible or not. But yeah, I've been getting a lot of questions, I guess, from clients who are now trying to recoup some of those fees from their clients and consumers because they are getting so high. So yeah, I think it's an interesting topic.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have examples of like the types of clients that are experiencing this maybe more than others?
If I had to think of it's usually consumer end clients, right? So like if you're doing business to business, most of those payments are ACH, right? Whereas if you're dealing directly with the consumer, a lot of those individuals prefer paying by credit card for convenience, right? Sure. But also, I don't know if you're seeing on social media, I follow a lot of like influencers who talk about deals for credit card points, right? For flights and concert tickets and all sorts of stuff, right? And so I think there's people out there that are trying actively to get credit card points so that they can then, sure. Get first class flights to Europe or Australia or Japan, right? And so with that, there's, I think, maybe an increase in how many transactions people are putting on credit cards. And so that puts, a strain on the budgets of organizations. And so, yeah, I think you have two different ways of going, right? You can either up your total prices, right, to subsidize those fees, or try to pass it on to the consumer.
And do you have to say that those fees are applied to those transactions too?
100%. Yeah. There's all sorts of federal laws around it. And then, I've looked into this as a topic because we've been getting a lot of these questions. And so the other piece is that every single state has different laws.
So how does that work?
Yeah, it's complicated, right? So like if you are a brick and mortar store and you're only serving customers here in Illinois, then it's still complicated, but not as much, right? Because all you have to care about is the federal law and the Illinois law, right? If you are an e-commerce solution, right, and somebody is, buying services from you, then you have to take into account where they are at, right, and where they're consuming your services. And so, like in Connecticut, it's completely illegal to pass those credit card charges on to the consumer.
Yeah, I know. I actually just had a call with our billing software this morning.
Oh,
and,
did you?
I know, ironic. And and I know that they have that set up in our system because we do have clients in Connecticut and other states where it's not allowed. And our system does pass on the credit card fees to the client. What I learned today, though, that I wasn't aware of is that if they use a debit card, then actually, like, there's a different fee that we pay on our side as the person receiving the payment. And so I was like, I didn't even realize we were getting charged for that. Like I just assumed, ACH or credit card payment, but I didn't think about the impact from a debit card payment perspective too.
Yeah, I think there's also different laws around prepaid credit cards.
Yeah.
I don't know how a system would know whether something's prepaid or not, but
yeah.
Well,
so with the Illinois law, though, it was limiting the percentage as well, right? The percentage that you could pass along to the
so that consumer. Law I think that went up for debate, and I think it was supposed to cap the fees at 1%. So again, we're talking about the fees, not that the credit card company charges in this case, but the fees that the business would be able to recoup from the end consumer. Mm-hmm. And so they were going to cap that at 1%. And there are states that will allow you to put a surcharge on whatever the bill is, but they'll cap it, right? Federally, you can't charge the end consumer more than what you're paying yourself. Which is, I think, based on this conversation that you were having this morning, right? The key is having somebody that's that middleman, right? That can just turn on the feature and make sure that they're monitoring all those laws. Otherwise it becomes a hot mess.
Yeah, well, and I just know from some of our clients, like on the sales tax side as well, like there's just so many different jurisdictions where you have to know what the charges are. I mean, in a lot of situations, we're recommending to clients that they use like a third party because it's too much, for most people to track. And like you said, if you're selling online or something to multiple states across the country, that obviously overcomplicates it as well. So
were they it's just like a setting that they turn on, and then they kind of manage that on their end for us, I'm assuming. Yeah. I think based on where the client's located, that's how they determine whether or not there's the fees able to be passed on. Yeah. I mean, it can get sometimes a little bit more nuanced because let's say that you are a service provider, right? And you do provide that service here in Illinois, but the person that's buying the service lives in Wisconsin or Indiana, right? So that can become a little bit more wonky because technically the laws pertain to where you're providing the service and not where the person lives. And so it can get sometimes it's not as easy as turning on and turning off the button, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's an in-person training, right? That's a little different than like virtual services or e-commerce or doing an online training or webinar, right? Then that's federal rules, or the rules of where the person resides. So sometimes it's interesting because like I feel it's a really easy thing for businesses to want to do, right? When they're having conversations about their budgets, I feel like a lot of them are like, oh yeah, our credit card fees are exorbitant. Let's just pass them on to the consumer. Mm-hmm. It's an easy, sure, yeah, of course, right? Like that's an easy thing to solve, and not everyone always thinks through what those consequences could be and what the rules are around it. But yeah, Tyler, you mentioned like notice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you definitely have to provide notice.
So if I got that right, so you're saying if it's in-person training, so I was going back to the services, is that going to incentivize people to use people in different states? I don't know. Is the fees that big of a deal? But 3% can add up.
I guess it depends on how much it is, right? Like, I don't know about you, but if I'm like paying 3% on a $100 transaction, I might pay that because it's convenient to pay $3 and not have to worry about it, right? But I guess if you were paying $20,000 for some sort of conference, you might think twice, like, hey, do I want to pay that fee? I mean, and I think in all these situations, right, there's usually always an alternative, right? Like you can do an ACH, right, which is maybe nothing, right, or a check, right? So very rarely do I think you get into a situation where credit card is your only option. I think I'd have to do a little bit of research, but I think there's also maybe some rules around if credit card is your only option, whether you can charge that fee.
That would make sense.
I think I know just family businesses, I know they're already incentivizing cash transactions. So they're giving like benefits and different, if you pay cash, it's a little bit less overall. So on just like the small scale, like restaurants, bars, that's what I've personally seen.
Well, that's easier to navigate, right?
Yeah. Which is interesting though, because I feel like there's also a lot of places that are like, there's no cash, right? Like it's like they're cash free, like it's only card. Like a lot of venues that you go to now, you know, back to the sporting events, concert discussion. A lot of those are cashless, which makes sense because, you know, obviously you don't want to deal with fraud or things like that. But, you know, it does kind of, it's like a balancing act, I guess, of like, okay, well, does it make sense to incur those fees and go cashless and save on a risk management perspective? Or is there an incentive to have people pay in cash and save on some of that?
Well, yeah, because I know my brother, for example, works in a certain restaurant bar industry and was passing those fees. He was looking at his books and it's like thousands of dollars. He's like, I can't afford. It makes a big difference when you're trying to compare or like, I don't know, trying to improve month over month, and then you see these big fees. So he's just decided to pass them on. I mean, luckily no one's blinked an eye, but who knows? Secretly, I don't know.
Yeah, I think if there's a mechanism to pass it on and to be able to manage it, it works. Sometimes it becomes hard, though. You know, we have organizations that we work with that have their own proprietary systems, right, that they use to process transactions, to keep service records and all those things, right? And so, you know, there are rules around how those charges end up on your bill and how you communicate those charges. And so even if your back-end credit card processor can turn it on, well, now you have to build something forward-facing for the consumer to see, because you have to notify them that there's going to be a charge if they use a credit card before they check out, right? And so now you might have to rebuild that system and how it appears, and there's costs associated with it. And so there's this back and forth of like, okay, well, what if we then just increase the fee by $1? That'll subsidize all the payments, whatever they're processed, or do we not, right? Or do we rebuild it and make that investment? I think it's hard though, because like the Illinois law, right? A state can change overnight, right? And so you put in all this money to rebuild the system, and then 2 years from now you could have 15 states that automatically, you know, disallow that being passed on to the consumer, and now you made that investment, you can't even recoup those costs anymore. So it's hard to make a business decision, right? And without knowing kind of where it's going to go.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of cost-benefit analysis there.
Yeah. It is funny, though, because like I said, I think people are just like, yeah, let's do it. And then they're like, sometimes when I respond to the emails, I'm like, actually, just let's take a second. You know, there's some work that you have to do. You actually also have to notify the credit card companies. think a lot of people don't know that. So if you use a third-party processor, then they usually do the notification, right? But if you're working directly with like a Visa or MasterCard, you actually have to let them know 30 days ahead of time that you're going to be doing this. Does everybody know it?
Sure.
Probably not, right?
Yeah.
But not everybody knows that they have to, but that's technically the law. So, yeah.
And so the part with Illinois, though, that even the 1%, that's all been deferred?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's helpful for us, for our clients to know that, because I'm sure there's, lots of people that are in those spaces that are wondering when they need to make that change. To your point about the changing systems and how, even if you have a third party, like, does that automatically update? Do we have to do some sort of process to make sure some of that gets changed?
Yeah, it kind of depends on if your consumer goes from your website to a third-party website to actually execute the transaction, then usually it's easier because that third-party website's the one that like turns on the feature, right? Whereas if it's still in your system, but there's like a back-end processor, that's when it becomes harder to do. Yeah, yeah. And then I think, every state's different, but you do have to show it on your receipt as a separate line item. So it can't be buried with anything. It can't be called like service fee. You have to very clearly say it's a credit card surcharge and what is that amount.
Oh, and what about those pennies? That's just great.
Well, everyone's around. Yeah, people skip the penny now.
Yeah. The problem with cash is no one carries it. Yeah.
And when I went to Canada, they rounded up to the dollar or rounded down. It was,
Wait, what?
Yeah.
No change at all, huh?
Well, they don't, because their
coins?
coins are $1, $2. They kind of freaked out because I wanted to use cash. I was like, their cash is so beautiful.
Yeah.
But then when I gave them like a $5 for something that cost, they would just give me like a bill back, and they would skip like almost $2. And I'm like, how are you guys accounting for that? So
Where's the debit and the
beautiful.
credit going?
It was at a breakfast restaurant or something. They just said, we don't carry like coins.
Coins. I
But
mean,
I'm
I
like,
get that.
A lot of your
What's
currency.
the smallest bill? $5 or
$5.
$1? $5 is the smallest bill.
They have a
It's like
$2
Europe,
coin?
where it's like a $2 coin in one.
I mean,
roll.
outside
Yeah.
of a diner, how many restaurants do you think would give you like pennies back in cash?
Well, I don't know. Like
I
50
think people
cents?
would like give you back. I don't know. When's the last time you went to a restaurant that was like a sit-down restaurant and gotten
When's
coins
the last
back?
time you
Actually
paid in
don't-
cash? I don't know.
I don't know.
And then usually just give the rest in tip.
Now I
Yeah.
kind of want to go to a restaurant for lunch and just be like, hey, here's $20. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would freak out. They would
I
have to
think
go
they
find a
would.
safe. I don't know.
I don't think they would give you back coins.
At all? You don't even think
I don't
quarters?
think so. I think they just give you back dollars.
Yeah. The other day, Harrison, we were riding our bikes and we stopped at this like comic book store, and it was similar to that where it was like I gave him it said it was $5, but he said it was $5. It probably was like $5.99.
Sure.
And they always forget to include that, and so I gave him $6, thinking that would cover the tax. It was $5, and he came back and I was like, "Well, was there any change?" And he was like, "No, it was actually $6.59, but the guy said it was good." I was like, "Okay,
Good thing
cool.
you're cute.
Yeah. I was like, well, I guess to your point, like they're like, well, we don't want to give change anyway, so whatever, we'll just round down.
Well, a lot of
I mean,
banks
Yeah.
won't like my mom back in the day would like bring the jars
Oh
of
yeah,
like
we
coins.
had a
You
hard
cannot
time.
do that.
Yeah. We have a huge thing of coins, and it was like took a really long time to find a place where
Yeah.
you could
Where'd you find a
exchange
place?
that. I don't remember now.
Okay.
I think.
And if you do, they take
Which one?
10% or something.
Yeah, there's like a fee
there's like a
associated
fee.
with
Yeah, 'cause they
it.
used to have them like in grocery stores
Yeah, you
and
could
like
just
at the
the
bank.
coin bank or
Coin
something like
Star.
that. Coin
Yeah.
Star.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just-
I used to love collecting change.
Yeah.
Because it was money that was out of sight and not
Yeah.
in your account.
Yeah.
And then you
the
got
nice-
like $60 after
Yeah.
or
It's like,
something.
oh,
yeah.
before you go on a vacation, let's go change it.
You got a dopamine
Coin.
thing because the coins are hitting and then
Yeah.
the numbers going up. And,
Yeah, it's like you're
and
gambling.
as it goes up,
Yeah,
you're like the
yeah, it's
vacation
like
gets
a-
more luxurious. Or luxurious. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
slot machine. Ding, 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 ding.
And now they don't. Yeah.
I do think it's interesting. I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like when I pay with cash, I'm much more conscious of how much I spend. Like I like see the money leaving my wallet, whereas when I use a
agree.
credit card, I'm just like boop, boop,
100%.
boop, boop.
I
I've
mean,
said that. Some people said the opposite. They said I spend more when I have cash. I was like, how is that possible?
How's that possible?
I
But
mean, I
yeah.
give it away to people on the street a lot more, but
I do try to-
I feel like that's like if I have cash, like that.
Yeah.
That's where it goes. But
Yeah.
I there was like a person who wrote a book about how to be better with manage money, and the whole idea was that you would get like an envelope of cash each month, right? And that
Oh,
would be
sure.
like you're spending money. And so I have I have
You
threatened.
use the envelope system?
No.
Oh.
But I have threatened that with my spouse.
I
to
see.
say, we got to cut down on the spending. Pretty soon you're just going to get an allowance in a cash envelope. And
Yeah.
when it runs
I do
out,
question-
that's it for the month.
I do question a lot of the Amazon packages, and she always goes, "It was just $10." I was
Yeah,
like,
sure.
"But there's 10 packages."
I don't
No,
know.
Amazon's another one where I'm like, how did that get there? Because it's so easy, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah. And we actually have like a different credit card that's linked to our Amazon. And
Oh, so that you
it's
don't
like-
see it
yeah,
until-
so I don't even know. Like, it just all of a sudden it's like that credit card gets paid, and it's like, oh, I guess we spent that much on Amazon this
Yeah.
month because it's the only thing that goes on it.
Yeah. I also get like super eco-conscious because I'm like, this can't be good. They're just coming to my house like every other day. Like, do I really need this right away? So now I try to be like, okay, well, if I don't really need this tomorrow, like,
Yeah.
let me move it.
I appreciate my $3 movie credit.
Yeah, that's fair. Me too. Me too. Yeah. I did see something again on social media that was talking about how, like, if you want your life to be more interesting, if you will, to like increase your footprint. And so, like, when I'm thinking about these Amazon things, I do feel like, okay, because you're not going to a store to buy this stuff, right? Like, you're decreasing your interactions as a human being with other human beings, and just like decreasing your footprint in life because it's just coming into your house, right? And so that they say that like some of the whimsy, if you will, of people's lives goes away when they like have things come to their
Sure,
homes.
'cause you never leave your house.
Correct.
You just
You
deliver
just-
food, groceries. That wraps up today's podcast. I appreciate you both joining me, and we'll look forward to our next discussion.